Section 5.4, Circles. In this video, we're going to look at the definition of a circle and all the terms that are related to it, and we're going to find the circumference or the perimeter of the circle and the area of a circle. So we're going to take a moment now to look at just the definition of a circle and a lot of the related terminology that we're going to use as we work with circles. So what do we mean by a circle? Well, a circle is defined to be the set of all points in a plane that are equidistant, which just means equal distance from a fixed point called the center of the circle. So imagine this, we're going to have a center here, and let's say that the distance we're going to move out is 2 inches. So if I go 2 inches in every direction and put a dot, then those dots are going to make the circle. So I'd have an infinite number of these, but then all of those points form the circle. The distance from the center of the circle to any point on the circle is called the radius, and we use the letter R to represent the radius in a circle. The diameter is the distance from one point of the circle through the center and to the opposite point, and we use the letter D to represent the diameter. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is the circumference, and circumference is just the mathematical term for a perimeter of a circle. So if you are specifically finding perimeter for a circle, we call that the circumference. Now let's look at these definitions and terms graphically. So again, if this is the center of my circle, if I go out a fixed amount in every direction, then all of the points that are out that number of units form the circle. So you have an infinite number of points along a circle. Now, if I draw from the center of the circle out to any point on the circle, then that is called a radius, and we call more than one of those radii. So the plural for radius would be radii. If I draw a line from one side of the circle through the center and to the opposite point of the circle, then that's what we call the diameter. And notice that the diameter, this is a really important relationship. The diameter is twice as long as the radius, so that if I knew that this had a radius of 5 inches, then the diameter, which would be this entire distance, would be twice as long, and it would be 10 inches. Now to the formulas we're going to use for a circle. If you're finding circumference, which again, remember, is the same as perimeter, then there are two formulas you can use. You can use circumference equals 2 pi r, or remember what we just said a minute ago, that 2r is the diameter. So I could use circumference as pi times the diameter. And then if you're going to find the area of the circle, you'll use area equals pi times the radius squared. Now we do need to remember that the number pi comes from the Greek alphabet, and it's the symbol that we use to represent 3.14, and then that number goes on forever and it never repeats or stops. So we're going to use pi to be 3.14. There is, on most cases, your calculator should have a pi button on it, but if you don't, then just go ahead and use 3.14. But keep in mind that that is just an approximation for pi, and you are not going to be completely accurate if you use that value for pi. So all of our answers are going to only be approximations. Now, if you keep your answer in terms of pi, so if you left an answer as like 6 pi, then that would be an exact answer. But if you multiply 6 times 3.14 and get 18.84, then that's just an approximation. So we will use 3.14 for our value for pi to get our approximation for our answers. So let's find some areas and circumferences. So we have a circle with a radius of 6, and they want us to find the circumference and the area. So circumference, remember, Since we know our radius, we want to use the formula 2 pi radius. Well, that would be 2 pi times 6, which is 12 pi, which again would be the exact answer. Or we can use our calculator and use pi as 3.14 and get 37.68. And since we're doing circumference, which is like perimeter, the units on that would be feet. For B part, we're trying to find the area, and the area formula for a circle is pi times the radius squared. Well, that would be pi times 6 squared, which is 36 pi as an exact answer. Or again, if we use 3.14, we get 113.04, and we were finding area this time, so my units are square feet. In example 2, we're going to find the circumference and the area of a circle that has a diameter of 5.2 inches. So remember that our formula for circumference is pi times diameter, since we know our diameter. Well, then that's going to be pi times 5.2, which is 5.2 pi. But then we can get our calculator and find out that that is 16.328, but we'll go ahead and round that to 16.33, and since we're measuring in inches, our units for circumference is inches. Now to find the area, we're going to use the formula pi times the radius squared. But since we know the diameter is 5.2, that means that whole distance across there is 5.2, then that's going to make our radius be half of that, which is 2.6. So now we can substitute into our formula that our area is pi times 2.6 squared, but that's going to be 6.76 pi. But then if I use my calculator, I get that that's 21.2264, so we'll make that 21.23 square inches because we're doing area, so we would measure in square inches. In example 3, we're going to apply these formulas to finding the perimeter of a semicircle. So remember that a semicircle is just half of a circle. So what I want to do is find the distance along the diameter and then along the outside edge of this half a circle. Well, because I'm looking for perimeter, then I'm going to use my circumference formula, which is pi times the diameter, which in this case would be 20 pi. But that would be if I had the entire circle. Since I only have a semicircle, I'm going to divide that by 2 and get 10 pi, which would be 31.4. And then I have this straight linear distance here of 20. So my total perimeter would be the sum of those two. So it would be 31.4 plus 20, which would be 51.4. And again, because we were finding perimeter, my units would stay centimeters. Now let's apply our area formulas. This time we're going to find the area of a washer. And a washer is just a circle that has another circle removed from it. So again, we're looking for this shaded area between these two. So the easy way to do that is just find the area of the big circle and subtract out the little circle. So if I find the area of the big circle, and I'm just going to call it big, that's pi times the radius squared. But by looking at my picture, the big radius was given to me as 5 millimeters. So this is going to be pi times 5 squared, 25 pi, which would be 78.5 square millimeters. And then my little circle is also pi times the radius squared. But this time the radius is 2. Well, that's 4 pi, which would be 12.56. And now I would subtract those. So if I take 78.5 minus 12.56, I would get 65.94. And that would be square millimeters. Now, we could have also kept these in terms of the exact answer by subtracting 25 pi minus 4 pi, which would have given me 21 pi. In example 5, we're trying to find the perimeter and the area of the shape that's shown here. So what I want to realize is that this is made up of a square and a semicircle. So you kind of visualize, there's my semicircle. So let's find the perimeter first. Well, to do that, we're going to find these 3 sides, which will be easy. That'll be 10 plus 10 plus 10 plus, and then we've got the circumference of a semicircle. So that's going to be pi times the diameter. But that would be if I had a whole circle, so I'm going to divide that by 2. So that gives me 30 plus 5 pi. And then using my calculator, I can get that that is 45.7. And that was measured in inches. So my units would just be inches. Now for B, probably an easy way to do B is to do it as a square minus a circle or a semicircle. So I'm going to put half a circle. Well, we know our formula for the area of a square is s squared. And we know the area of a circle is pi r squared. Well, in this case, the side of the square is 10. But the side of the square corresponds to the diameter of the circle. But if the diameter is 10, then the radius would be 5. So now if I do 1/2, do 5 squared is 25, and then half of 25 would be 12.5 pi. And now I can use my calculator and get that that is 60.75. And then we need to put our units on that. This is areas, so it's square inches. At this point, I would like for you to take some time and turn to page 190 in your book and work on problems 5 through 9. Have those ready for the next class period. Mark any questions that you may have about either the video or these homework problems, and we'll go over the answers to the problems when we meet in class.